Republicans seem to claim a lot that they have the answer to everything, but oftentimes their answers are like completely dissatisfactory. Whereas Democrats just come out and say like, "Hey, we might not have the answers, but they don't either," which is bad marketing. And that's kind of what I'm doing too. But I'm not a part of the DNC, so you know what it is. What it is.
No.
Rudy Rum.
Man.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Didn't really love that last guy, but hopefully we can have a good conversation now. Okay.
For sure. What's up? I'm probably not as versed as you, but I'd love to just engage with you.
That's absolutely fine. All I'm asking is honest engagement. That's all I ask.
Yeah, sure, man.
So do you? I assume that you disagree with the prompt that I have on my screen. That January 6th was. We'll just say that January 6th was like bad enough to where Donald Trump shouldn't be holding office.
Yes, I do disagree with that.
Okay. Do you want me to lay out my case, or do you want to bring up any specific points?
I don't think a large group of people acting can be charged with one person as far as instigating, unless it's specifically said to be instigated.
Okay. So what I would say is that it seems like Donald Trump took active efforts to get the 2020 election overturned. It felt like he was lying to the people about election fraud claims, and we have a lot of things to prove that he was knowingly lying about the election fraud claims. When that didn't work, he tried to submit basically alternate electoral college votes, and he tried to pressure the vice president to choose those votes instead of the ones that the states certified. And when Mike Pence refused to do that, I don't know if Donald Trump had the intention of causing a riot at the Capitol, but at the very least, when the riot at the Capitol happened, because he sent them to protest at the Capitol, whenever they started rioting, Donald Trump fanned the flames of the riot. We can engage. I can walk you through that whole thing if you want me to, or we could go point by point, or.
I'm not gonna agree or disagree, but I'll throw my points out there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the video of the police officer welcoming protesters through the line?
Yes.
Is that, or is that not Donald Trump's fault?
I wouldn't say, like I said, I don't know if the Capitol protest turning into a riot was Donald Trump's fault or not. What I would say is that Donald Trump had sent them to protest the certification of the election, and then when it was clear that it had turned into a riot, Donald Trump had been fanning the flames of the riot. So whether or not I would say that he caused the riot.
What do you mean sent them?
Because at the end of his protest, he had said, "We will march on to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." And he had tweeted out a couple days in advance, like big protest on J 6th. Be there, will be wild. So he was coordinating a protest at the Capitol on January 6th in order to protest the certification of the election. His protesters had gotten a little rowdy for one reason or another. They broke into the Capitol, and then when Donald Trump realized that they were in the Capitol, because multiple White House aides had come into the White House dining room and told him that there was a riot, he decided, instead of telling them to go home, he had decided to basically inflame the crowd.
Before or after his speech?
After his speech.
So you think that he should have gone on after his speech that proclaimed to be a peaceful protest and continued to claim to be a peaceful protest?
I think whenever the first White House aide came in and told him that there were people rioting in the Capitol, he should have sent out at least a tweet saying, "Hey, listen, guys, go home in peace," or sent out a video saying, go home in peace. But instead, the first correspondence that he had with the rioters was that Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what was necessary to save the Constitution, and then he didn't actually tell the protesters to go home until 5 o'clock, when they broke in at 1 o'clock.
Okay. And these protesters, were they peaceful or non-peaceful?
Some of them were peaceful, some of them were non-peaceful.
Okay. What were the non-peaceful? What happened with them?
What do you mean?
You said there's non-peaceful protesters. What did they do?
They broke into the Capitol. They were looking to zip tie, take hostages of different state legislators. They were chanting to hang Mike Pence. They were
They
like
did all that.
they didn't successfully do it, but they were held back by the Capitol Police. But that seemed to be their intention.
The same Capitol Police that ushered them in.
No,
No, different Capitol Police.
the Capitol Police were not ushering people into the building. They were taking them to secured
You
areas where
said
they.
you saw the video where they were ushering them in.
I saw a video where it was claimed that they were ushering them in, but they were ushering them to secured locations to keep them away from legislators.
Okay, so you saw them being ushered in, but they're different. It's a different ushering.
Yes, because the purpose wasn't to usher them into the Capitol so then they could push them back out of the Capitol. The purpose was, if the ground was already breached by different protesters, they were moving back to other more defensible areas in order to keep the groups from progressing into the legislators.
Okay, so you think that an actual coup was attempted that day, correct?
I would probably call it an insurrection.
Insurrection.
Yeah, and I would say that at the very least, I don't even think the worst part of January 6th was the Capitol riot. I think the worst part was the false electors.
I'd agree with that. And where specifically can you point to the false electors?
It's
What?
late.
And
Oh, sorry. You're teacupped. I don't know if you're hearing me.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Uh, what websites? Because I can't. Apparently, I can't multitask on my phone while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Uh, what websites and credible can you say that Trump sent false electors?
So we have a bunch of stuff laid out in the Jack Smith investigations. There's the document that was submitted to Tanya Chutkin whenever it was being asked that all of his evidence be ruled for either being official acts as president or non-official acts as candidate. So we have basically all of the evidence that Jack Smith had laid out in that document, and it lays out how Donald Trump's campaign was assembling potential electors from the RNC to submit fraudulent certificates of ascertainment to send to the joint session. A lot of those potential electors had backed out because they saw it as an attempt to overthrow the government, so they got other people to fill in that weren't chosen by the RNC to submit their electorate slate anyway. If you look up, there's a video
Can you slow it down and say it one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I'm a fast talker, so if I'm talking too fast, then just cut me off.
No, I just wish to engage in a conversation with you.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm not trying to disprove you or prove you.
I understand. So there's this document, right, that Jack Smith submitted to the judge that was ruling on his case, basically so the judge could determine whether or not it was taken as an official presidential act, which was laid out in the Supreme Court ruling, or if it was done as a candidate for re-election.
I'm familiar. Yes.
Yeah, so that document was submitted with all of Jack Smith's evidence against Donald Trump, if not most of it, in order for the judge to rule whether or not they were official acts, and then that document was released for public consumption.
Yep, absolutely.
It details about how Kenneth Chesborough, Janet Ellis, Boris Epstein, I think is his name, they all assembled potential electors, which were chosen by the Republican National Committee to submit their slates, but a lot of the potential electors had backed out because they were fighting for language to be added that said that their certificate would only be made valid if pending litigation came back in the Trump campaign's favor, or because they saw it as a way to overthrow the government. So a lot of the potential electors backed out, and a lot of people that were not even potential electors stepped in to sign the certificate, which would be fraudulent. And then,
but at that point in time, did they not think that it would be legitimate?
The electors or the lawyers?
The people that signed the piece of paper.
The people that signed the piece of paper more or less thought, due to some lies told to them by the Trump campaign, that what they were doing was completely legal. Maybe not the people that stepped in, but
Yes. And and so and then my further question is that if you thought that uh, something illegal was occurring,
Mhm.
would you not counterbalance that?
What do you mean?
Uh, well, let's say there was 20 million votes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 20 million votes go missing the
Mm-hmm.
next election. Would you not think that something is suspicious from that?
Not necessarily.
So where do those 20 million votes go?
Between the 2020 election and the 2024 election,
He read my mind.
I would say that it was probably just a lack of motivation for voting. A lot of people were super motivated to vote in 2020 because they thought that Donald Trump was particularly bad, because mail-in ballots were way more accessible, because they're at home and they have nothing better to do. Um,
How were
and
they
we
way more accessible previously than they are now?
Because a lot of people had the time to realize how, like, to vote. A lot of people had the time to look into how the mail-in process works, so they could receive a mail-in ballot and actually submit it. And this has been shown because not only did Joe Biden's vote totals go way up in 2020, but so did Donald Trump's. It's just the majority
They
of,
did.
like, there were
I
way
agree.
more people
Yeah.
that were voting in the
Yeah.
2020 election.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Um,
Where are you from, man?
I prefer not to share because I've had some people threaten some stuff against me, and I can't be too careful.
Oh, well, sorry. I wasn't trying to threaten you.
No, I know you're not, but it happens, and I got to be careful.
Uh, I just, I have a hard time seeing, and you know, I see your views are going down. Apparently, I'm not that interesting.
It's okay.
Uh, I just have a hard time seeing where Trump purposely caused the January 6th uh, insurrection, as you call it.
Hmm.
And on top of that, if 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 those people had really chosen to occupy and overturn the election,
Hmm.
then much more action would have been taken than what happened.
So, I think realistically, the reason that more overt things didn't happen is because it's a lot easier to contest super overt power grabs through, like, our checks and balances in government. Whereas there was an active effort when submitting the alternative electors to keep it secret from the state legislators and to keep it secret from the media. Like, all of this was encouraged to be basically behind closed doors. Um, and if you do, like, a full-on military attack on the Capitol, you're going to have a lot more opportunities for that to release, and then a lot more opportunities for people to combat you in doing that. Whereas when it comes to, like, gaming the Electoral Count Act, which is a piece of legislation that most people don't even know exists, you can do that way more
That's
covertly
true.
and way more
Yes, I agree.
defensively.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, that was the end of my thing. Is that it was probably just done because a full-on military coup in the U.S. is super unrealistic, because this country was built on standing up against oppressive governments. So if you're going to do, like, authoritarian acts, you're probably going to do it more covertly rather than, like, an outward military coup.
Yeah. Well, that's what I guess. I guess that's what a lot of, to be honest with you, and I speak for people that don't get on your TikTok probably, but a lot of us are like, if you actually wanted to stage a coup, it would be way different than what occurred.
Mhm.
It was, and you go to all these liberal cities, and they, they have peaceful protests
Yeah.
have that have buildings burning down and all this other stuff, and Relative to those, that was actually a very peaceful protest. Only a handful of people passed away. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, so the thing that separates it from BLM in my mind, obviously I disavow any political violence. Anybody who's burning down buildings I think is wrong and should
agreed,
be prosecuted.
agreed.
I think the difference is the intent. In BLM, I don't really know what the intention of most of the violence was, but I know that it wasn't to like subvert a core government process. Whereas January 6th, I think, was to subvert the like certification of the election, which I think is a really big deal. And when we look at like how modern authoritarians rise, like look at Viktor Orban in Hungary, they don't do it through, outward military coups, just full on taking over the government. They do it by slowly introducing authoritarian action. So they're not going to send the entire National Guard into the capital. What they're going to do is try and game one of the laws in order to subvert the results of the election, or like bypass term limits by holding special referendums within the people to bypass it, and like rig elections. Like that's how modern day authoritarians more or less take hold, which it seems like what Donald
Cartels
Trump
of
was trying to
Mexico.
do a lot more.
Cartels of Mexico, prime example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like Donald Trump was trying to kind of not get his hands too dirty with like doing an old school like Viva la Revolution kind of coup, and he was trying to like subvert the democratic processes and still, because if he did an all out military coup, his fan base is gone. If he fails, he fails and he's dead. Whereas if he fails with this kind of attempt, he's still alive and it's defensible enough to where he'll still have a lot of supporters that are willing to back him up on it.
Yeah. Well, my other question is to you is, what do you think is going to happen on Inauguration Day?
I hope it's peaceful. Based on how January 6th went, with none of the Democrats objecting to the vote, it feels like Democrats are more or less willing to hand over the baton to Donald Trump, regardless of if they think that he deserves it. Which is how our government is supposed to function. I just wish that both sides were kind of holding the same respect for each other.
I think that will be true in the future. I think to be honest with you, as a Republican, there was the same shock and awe that Democrats went with in the 16 was the same shock and awe that Republicans went with in 2020. And it's still, I've had a lot of my Democrat friends that ask me, well, where did those 20 million votes go?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my question as well. Where did they go? What happened to them?
I think it's genuinely just a case of like, so I think that I was just on a podcast where I was talking about this. I think the Democrats have a big personability problem, or like charm problem. Kamala Harris doesn't feel like someone that you can like go out to dinner with or that you'd be like friends with. Sure. Whereas Donald Trump feels like you could shoot the shit and drink a beer with him and whatever, and it'd be fine. Democrats just are not very charismatic, and Donald Trump had like the perception in 2020 of being like so bad that they would vote for Iraq over anybody. A lot of people were really tapped into politics in 2020, so they're a lot more informed, which I think leans towards Democrats. And I think Joe Biden, like for as much shit as he gets, I think he is more charismatic than Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris had the disadvantage of people not being as tapped in. She had the incumbency defense to where like people kind of forgot what a Trump term even looks like. She had half a term to run on because she was taking the baton from Joe Biden, who shit himself so bad that he basically killed her campaign. There was a lot of stuff that was really working against Democrats this term.
And his, not only hers, but his.
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff working against Democrats this election. So I'm not surprised. I'm not like, I was expecting Democrats to win, but whenever I saw that Kamala Harris lost, I wasn't gonna say like, oh, there's no way this could be accurate. I was like, yeah, like all of this kind of makes sense. And I think I heard a stat that like almost every single party that was running for incumbency this election lost because of the inflation faced from recovery from 2020. So it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just hard to come back from that much inflation from stimulus spending.
For sure. That's what Do I have to stay on topic, or can we move to a different
You,
topic?
you can move to a different topic.
Uh, so so where do you stand on like abortion? Where do you stand on uh, basically the democratic pillars of transgenderism?
Um, for abortion, I think it's a woman's right. But I think a lot of people have really bad facts going into a conversation like that. Like, I don't terribly disagree even with the Supreme Court ruling, like overturning Roe v. Wade. I think that it was done kind of. I think that the initial ruling was kind of bad. I think it's a bad outcome to overturn it, like because I support women's access to abortions, but I don't know. Like, it is a genuine question of the legality of the Roe v. Wade ruling. Um,
Which
but I mean, like,
I'll go ahead and tell you, I still am pro-choice. I hope no one ever chooses it,
mhm.
uh, but I am pro-choice. But I also think that was bad legislation and bad law ruling.
Yeah,
Uh,
I tend to lean a little bit towards thinking that Roe v. Wade was an all right ruling, just because like the right to privacy is something that is kind of spurious, and that's what Roe v. Wade was decided on. But at the same time, I can understand why the Supreme Court thinks that this is a bad ruling that needs to get overturned. But I think like not a lot of people, most of
definitely need better case law.
yeah,
It needed better case law if you're going to prove it.
most of my politics just comes down to like practicality and civics. Like I like the way that the American government functions, and I like whoever I think will use the American government better and more responsibly is probably who I'm going to vote for. So that's why I voted for Kamala Harris. Because I
Yeah.
think Donald Trump has done a lot to fuck with our like institutions guardrails, which I think is really scary. Um, but like when we're talking about like philosophically, I do think that women have the right to an abortion, and I don't think that like that should really be litigated that much. But the question of how to arrive at that, like I don't even know if a national codification of abortion rights would even be possible to do legislatively. So
Yeah.
it's a tough question, but like philosophically, I
Well,
agree with the
but
Democrats on
if
it. So
but wait a second though. If you say that, then that means that you approve states' rights.
well, I don't know. I don't like if there is a way to codify it in national legislation, I would support it, but I don't know if that's provided for in the Constitution.
So that I agree, but that's my point: is that you agree with states' rights. Is that all right?
No, I'm saying I don't know for sure.
You don't know for sure.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't. If it would be possible to enshrine it in federal law, I would support that, and that's what separates me from a lot of Republicans.
And okay, so I'm gonna do the other one because I actually consider myself a libertarian.
Hmm.
So,
Me too.
uh, oh, really? Awesome. So, where are we in the world war? Where what when it comes to the U.S. government police, how do you feel about that?
I think that realistically, like it would be really nice if the U.S. didn't have to serve as the world police. But realistically, if
Yes,
it's not us, it's going to be Russia, and if it's not Russia, it's going to be China. So I think of those three world superpowers, it's better that it's us. And I think that we should probably stand up against like any land grabs from China or Russia, just on the grounds of sustaining like free existence of borders and like like borders being established. So like when it
yeah,
comes to like Russia and Ukraine, I do support like sending aid to Ukraine because I don't think that we should set the precedence that big superpowers can just like bully around little countries and just take their land because
absolutely.
they want it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and not only that, and tell them what they can do.
Sorry,
So,
say again.
not only that, but tell them what they can do and who they can be friends with, and
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the
so
whole point of NATO is to make sure that no one encroaches on sovereign borders and to make sure that there's not any meddling within NATO countries. It's just like a military alliance.
exactly agree. So, what about transgenderism and female sports?
I'll tell you what. Um, it's a question that I haven't done due diligence into just because I don't like it's such a minutia issue, like it's affecting like what 30 people. um so I try to like stay out of it as much as I can just because it's not really a topic that particularly interests me. But if you're asking my opinion, like I do believe in freedom. That's why I consider myself a libertarian. If you want to call yourself transgender, if you want to change your gender, that's perfectly fine. It seems to coincide with our current scientific understanding of like gendered brains. And then when it comes to kids, like whatever is best to lower suicidality of trans kids is what I support. It should ultimately be up to the doctor, the kid, and the parents, and not so much the state legislators. And when it comes to doing it in sports, I'm kind of just going up to the.
You don't have to give me such a textbook answer. I just was asking for your personal.
Well,
opinion.
I do a lot of debates, so like my genuine thoughts do sound like textbook answers because I like to be very concise with my language just to make sure that it's not like.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just I like to have conversations with people. That's what I enjoy every person I meet. You know, that's
for sure.
me. But I I do have a general concern.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a daughter, but if I did, and she was sharing a locker room with a male, especially with what's come up recently in general, and I'm not going to cite you any news articles,
Sure. Yeah.
but there are news articles out there about females being encroached upon by males,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a general concern for the public. And I don't know how people who support transgenderism in female sports can rectify that for the future.
I think it hits at a little deeper of a question, in that I think the way that we treat our bathrooms and our locker rooms in general in America is just really weird. Like the fact that I can go into a locker room as a 6-year-old and see like an 80-year-old fucking flinging his dick around without a towel is like kind of weird, especially if that like gay guys aren't barred from entering the
True.
entering the locker rooms.
Look,
So
we've all been there. We've all been there.
yeah, and I heard there's this British commentator I listen to. His name is Alex O'Connor, and he was talking about like his first like experience into America, and he was like, yeah, you know, it's really weird going into American bathrooms and then seeing that the stalls have like a 2-inch gap between the door and the wall, and there's like a 5-inch gap at the bottom. Like, do you guys just do this for sex or whatever? And like it was interesting because whenever we talk about like predatoriness in the bathroom, it feels like there's better ways to do it than like harshly enforcing a no transgender rule, and it feels like we could probably just do like maybe make it more like more like the private? UK, because or make it more private, because it more private. It doesn't feel like the UK has these same sort of problems. It doesn't feel like Canada has these same sort of problems. It feels like this is like a kind of US specific problem.
We gotta quit and. All right, so I'm from Mississippi,
mm-hmm.
and at the football stadium where we go, there's a trough.
Yeah,
and literally, guys line up at this trough to pee,
mm-hmm.
and you talk about 20 guys can be peeing in the same trough. So
right, yeah,
you know, maybe a more private bathroom is perfect for everybody.
Yeah, because I mean, it would up your privacy. There wouldn't be like any super big concerns there. And I mean, I bring this point up a lot too, but like realistically, if someone's going in to like, you know, sexually assault someone in the bathroom, like a sign on the outside saying it's female only isn't going to be the thing that stops them. They're just going to go in and do it.
You're the first. You are the one of the very first that I disagree with, that we agree on the same. It's the same way that no gun signs are not set up to stop gun
right
violence.
Yeah, there needs to be something more, but I mean, like, I wouldn't support like a bouncer on the outside of restrooms doing like a genital check before I go into the bathroom. So it feels like maybe if we just made the bathrooms and locker rooms a little bit more private in general, it would cut out a lot of these problems without isolating trans people so hard.
Yeah. So
but yeah, that's just generally where I fall on
Sorry,
stuff like that.
I'm looking at uh, people like me or what made this country weak. Apparently, or either you.
I think it's probably me. Republicans are kind of unhinged in comment sections. So are Democrats, but like, since the big picture is Donald Trump and me calling January 6th bad, it's probably targeted towards me.
But at least you knew. At least you used his new portrait.
Oh, it's so bad. I think it makes him look worse than the first picture that I had of.
Oh well, of course it does. He means business the second time.
Dude, he looks like so I'm like an artist person. I do a lot of art, so I know generally like I've been in a photography class. This is exactly everything that you shouldn't do when you're taking like a professional headshot. Like it's
Oh yeah.
like it's mega
down.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. The funny part is that it's the ear. It's almost like
The only
it's
thing
almost, it's
the only thing worse than this presidential headshot is JD Vance's.
I hadn't seen JD Vance's. Yeah.
You know how in like high school yearbooks they make the eye like they'll make your eyes super blue, like husky blue. They did that for him, and he looks like a demon. Like he looks like he's wearing a skin suit. Oh, it's.
Oh no.
I don't know what incentive there would be to do that. It's insane.
Well,
Especially since his first presidential headshot was like kind of cute. Like he was smiling. It was very like neutrally lit. It was cute.
oh yeah.
But now he looks like
it was a generic presidential headshot.
Yeah,
sure.
here he's really not helping like the predatory dictator allegations.
I will agree with that. He means business in the second one for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but you got somebody else, or you?
Nope, I'm
Chilling?
request free. I think most of the people that were waiting to yell at me were too impatient.
Oh,
Because realistically,
well,
like when I host, no, I love this. Whenever I host these lives, like I am looking for conversations like these, but they're just so impossible to come by because people are so like. I don't know if you heard me talking to the first person, but the reason that I was so heated
did.
with that guy is because he was like obviously not engaging with anything that I was saying. Like there's
it
no
wasn't
reason
a
to.
conversation.
Yeah.
It was point. This is my thing is that a lot of these are point v point, and it's like, well, you pull up the Durham report. Oh, will you pull up the blah 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 blah. And my thing is I would rather just have a conversation with somebody just relaxed and about life in general, because I mean that's what it's about. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I see so like, I'm really, I admire, I look for three different kinds of conversations whenever I host these. Like, these are my goals. The conversation that we just had, where we just like share our perspectives on certain positions. We don't argue that hard. We just share our different perspectives and hopefully meet somewhere kind of in the middle. I think conversations like that are really good and really persuasive. Or I look for conversations where we kind of do the same thing, but we're a little more heated. We can call each other names, but we don't really like care about it at the end. Like it's just performance and like us being frustrated, but then we just shake hands at the end. I love conversations like that. And or more heated conversations that go hyper like in detail about a certain particular topic. I love conversations like that. And that's, on January 6th, I've had a lot of people come up who do know their facts, who are Donald Trump supporters, then we can have like really good in-depth conversations.
yeah.
But the problem is that a lot of people think they know a lot and are coming up for a conversation like that, but they actually don't know any of the like points that
Minutia.
Yeah, they don't know any of the minutia. So that guy was coming up to expecting to like really hammer on something that's completely unrelated to the point that I was making, and then when I bring up something that he can't account for, he just like calls me a traitor or whatever.
Well, you're not a traitor. My thing is that I like to have conversations with people. Period. I enjoy engaging with folks, and I don't have that many followers, but I go through a million TikTok lives, which as long as I still can.
Right.
I hope we don't get banned. But yeah, it's been a good conversation. I enjoy having conversations with people.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it too. I'm sure if you've gone through a bunch of TikTok lives, you know how fucking stupid these things get. So I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Just being kind of mellow, it's a
Well,
nice barrier.
well, I'll say this is that I'm a big anti fan of Harry Sessions, and
Yeah,
uh, in fact, the other guy, I can't even remember his name. He started posting his original content was his. He started posting his his dating sites with men and women, and then all of a sudden moved into politics, and I was like, what are you doing? I enjoyed your other content.
yeah,
What happened to you? So, but
yeah. I've heard a lot of people come up and air their grievances with the trio, Harry, Dean, and Parker.
yes, Parker, that's his name. I actually enjoyed Parker's original content. Uh, his original content was actually pretty good. Uh, but my thing is like you can't have a conversation with those guys. You can't have a and I'm not saying I've had a conversation with you, but you can't have a conversation with those guys because as soon as
Right.
you start at least trying to identify with them, then they start pulling out. Well, Newsmax said,
Yeah.
or that, that was a joke. They
Yeah.
never put Newsmax.
Are you like generally familiar with the term debate, bro?
Yes, yeah.
So like I think that term gets misused for a lot of people, but those three are like the definition of like debate bros, you know, like very
Oh, no
unpersonable,
doubt.
very
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Well, and my thing is though is that what I don't understand is they lost me, or at least Parker did. Uh, he lost me when he started moving to that content, and I was like, you actually had good content. Like he he originally had content about if he set his sexual profile up for male between 30 and whatever.
Uh-huh.
It was interesting. I used to watch it, and then he moved to the political stuff. And it's like I can't even watch anymore, man. Like
Hmm.
then nobody can have a conversation with him.
Yeah. From what I've seen though, it does seem like Parker's the better of the three when it comes to like
Yes,
being
agree.
more personable. I just watched Dean have that conversation with that one lady. Uh I don't remember what it was, but I mean, obviously they both went into it like expecting to farm clips out of it, but boy, it was so hard to watch.
Yeah. Are you getting snow? Can you tell me that? Are you dry?
I'm getting a lot of snow.
Getting a lot of snow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's not good.
We were
That's why I'm in here doing fucking TikTok lives on Friday.
we were at 57 degrees. We laid asphalt today.
Yep.
So
Wow. Jesus.
yeah. So
Salute. Luckily, it's
what do
supposed to
you do for
be.
a living?
I'm a college student. So
Okay.
I'm a full time college student. I have an on campus job, but I mean, you know, it's not really making a whole ton of
Yeah, it's
money,
not. It's not your career.
right? But I'm going for graphic design.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I have a YouTube channel as well, and you can see like I like animate this avatar, that talks for me because I don't show my face, but I mean like, you know, um, yeah, I do a lot of drawings.
It better be right winging, or else I'm not gonna watch it.
Oh hell no, it's not right. Wait.
I'm just
No,
messing.
if you watched my YouTube stuff, you would probably hate me because the amount of honest
I
conversations I
don't.
have is probably like 1 in 30.
No, I don't. I don't hate anybody. The only people I hate are people that try to merge over when they should have actually slowed down and sped up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but
I'm
the amount of like streaming matches I have on TikTok and YouTube are way more than conversations like this.
really.
Oh yeah, like probably about 90% of them are screaming matches. Just because like I like to match energy. You came in here like very nice, very cordial, so that's what I match. But the amount of people that just come in guns a blazing, you got to match. You got to match.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I know we're a little slow. We're down to 5. My bad. Am I ruining your viewings?
I literally could not care less about viewers. I'm looking for conversations. I'm looking to broaden my horizons. If that draws 5 viewers, if that draws like 10,000 viewers, that is what it is.
Okay.
Like a lot of people, I've noticed a lot of people tell me like, oh, you're like people who are like mad about me about like politics stuff. They'll say like, oh, you're going nowhere or whatever. But that's not what I'm like. I don't care. I've been doing this for about like. Technically, I've been making online content since like 2020, but but like recently, I just started the YouTube channel like 6 months ago, and I only have like 200 subscribers. If I really cared that much about growth, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
But I care about politics. I care about spreading the message, and if that brings viewers, so be it. But if it doesn't, then like I care
Can I
more
ask
about
you if
like,
you're in the
engaging.
States?
Hmm?
Are you in the States?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I tell people that I'm from Pennsylvania, but I'm lying.
Pennsylvania.
But I'm lying.
Oh, Pennsylvania. It's all right. I'm from Mississippi. So.
Yeah.
But, man, it's been nice engaging with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been sometimes whenever all I seem to get on TikTok is like conservatives who are coming to scream their head off and call and say that I want like people to die or whatever. It's nice to get like a nice reset from all of that.
No, I don't think anybody. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Democrats want people to die. I think Democrats have the wrong way about protecting people.
That's just something the TikTok studio does. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't think Democrats want people to die. I don't think Republicans want people to die. I think that we just have very different ways of going about it. I think that all of us think our way is the best.
Absolutely. If we didn't, then we wouldn't be arguing about it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
But
and
I think the main problem, because I'm pretty like I wouldn't even call myself like a Democrat per se, because I'm not tied to the DNC. But the problem is that like with Republicans, it feels like the Republican Party is in a position right now that I can't even like comprehend. Like putting your support behind someone like Donald Trump is something that I can't understand.
Okay, well, let's break that down a little bit. What are your absolute stops about Donald Trump?
I think that I think that his rhetoric is really harmful for America. I think that he cares about spreading divisiveness, and I think that's a problem. I think that he doesn't particularly care about the institutions that built America, and I think that he's willing to basically subvert them for his own needs if he wants to. I think his vision for America is just something that I don't like. I don't like the idea of cutting out all immigration. I don't like that, or not all, even cutting out all illegal immigration. I think that's or deporting all illegal immigrants. I think that's something that I don't view America to be, and I think that's something that Donald Trump views America to be. I think he's really brazen with throwing out certain really important things about America, like the fact that he posted on Truth Social the terminate the Constitution post. I think that on its face should almost be like what the fuck are we doing here, I think a lot of his policy proposals are really bad. Like I think his action on climate change isn't adequate, although I don't think any of the Democrats' action on climate change is adequate. I think the tariffs are really stupid. I don't know. I'm sure that was a long enough list.
Yes, that was super long. Uh, so what about the tariffs? All right, so this is something that I've wanted to tackle with Democrats or anybody in general.
Mhm.
So charging other countries to import into the United States, which yes will inevitably
Mhm.
drive the prices higher for the U.S. citizens, but it will negate uh, basically China and other countries undercutting U.S. Um, U.S.
Like,
availability.
yeah, like manufacturing.
Yes.
Hmm.
So so what's so bad about that?
So I think my problem with Donald Trump's tariff proposals are not so much the tariffs in and of themselves. I think tariffs have a good way to be used and a bad way to be used, and I think Donald Trump uses them the bad way. So for instance, like the way that Donald Trump even used tariffs in his first term, where he renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA, where he was putting tariffs on certain other countries when it comes to like manufacturing auto parts, so we could boost up auto parts manufacturing in the U.S., in Mexico, and in Canada. I think that was a good thing, and that was one of the only good things that I can point to in Trump's first presidency. Um, and like the way that Biden was
What
using tariffs against Taiwan to boost like domestic production of semiconductors, I think, and like microchips, I think that's good. But the problem is that Donald Trump is talking about putting tariffs on our allies, which are going to result in like retaliatory tariffs. Or he floated like terminating income tax and replacing those with tariffs, which I think is like a way to completely sink the U.S. economy.
dude, number one, let me full stop. Yes, I 100% agree. That is not the way to go.
Yeah, it just feels like the first time around he used tariffs okay. Like there's some criticisms that I would have about like where he placed them and where he didn't, but like it kind of showed me that he at least had an okay understanding of what tariffs do and what tariffs don't do. But this time around, like the proposals that he's making to like up tariffs against Canada, which we already have like huge tariffs on as a part of the USMCA, to completely like deconstruct one of the best deals that he had and one of the only good bills that he had in his first presidency, I think is really bad. And I think the way that he's like threatening like huge, like I think it was a 200% tariff against John Deere, like that's the way that he uses them just like feel crazy.
Well, but to I don't know if you're in ag land, but especially around here where I am, uh, the Mississippi farmers are feeling the move. The all these commercials that are coming out about, you know, uh, I don't know if you've seen them. They're here in Mississippi, but you know, uh, John Deere been America's farmers for 100 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they've moved. All right, there's 2 points to that. There's the first point is that they've moved to where farmers can't fix their own equipment,
Mm-hmm.
which has happened a long time ago. That happened uh, prior. I'm assuming you're less than 37 years old.
Correct.
Uh, uh, happened prior to you and me being born.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then on top of that, now they're moving manufacturing out of America, which that's a very big problem for Mississippi, or sorry,
Yeah.
let me not say Mississippi, American
Mm-hmm.
farmers
Yeah,
is
and I would even agree with that. But the problem is I don't think the problem between Republicans and Democrats right now are even identifying problems. I think we can both agree on what is and what isn't a problem, for the most part. Like I don't think anybody would look at John Deere moving away from the U.S. to do their manufacturing would be a good thing. But the problem is that like a good answer to that would be like, oh well, maybe like there's some tariffs that are really hurting our ability to import certain things that John Deere creates. So maybe we should lift some of those tariffs so the price of importing our goods is cheaper, and that would give incentive for John Deere to stay in America, or
sure,
like giving them
sure.
some amount of Like, there's other ways that we could do that than saying like, oh well, if you leave, I'm gonna put a 200% tariff on you. Like that feels like that doesn't feel like it does anything other than like a thinly veiled threat towards them. Like, there's good answers to these questions. It's just that Donald Trump isn't giving them.
Yes, no, I agree, and I feel like I'm on the opposite side where I'm like, he's just dropping the hammer, and he's being like, look, you've been in the U.S. You are the U.S. Number one equipment manager of all farm equipment, and now you're deciding to move out. I feel like if you just say nothing, then what's worse than saying nothing? I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely think we shouldn't have said nothing, but I also don't think we should have said like this, because realistically, if we're just threatening to tariff every single company that moves outside of the U.S., we can't make everything within the U.S. So what's going to happen is that they're probably just going to stop selling to the U.S., which is going to hurt everybody even more.
But John Deere's not going to stop selling to the U.S. because John Deere's the number one provider.
Sure, but look at if we did the same thing that we're threatening on John Deere to every other company that moves outside of the U.S. to start manufacturing. Like, that's the way to collapse the America as a world superpower.
True. But my question is, what company in America is literally abandoning their home base besides John Deere?
I don't know if it's so much a question about like abandoning home base, and it's more so about, because they've already expressed that they want to do it. It's not so much about like the historical ties to John Deere. It's more so like, what should we do to keep them here, or what should we do to lower prices for these farmers? And I think there are good answers for that. I think that the Democrats would probably be open to listening, and I don't think that Donald Trump has any interest in doing anything other than tariffs.
Well, I can go ahead and tell you from specifically talking to farmers that use John Deere, they've been upset since the 90s, but like I said, before you and me were born, because they have to go to John Deere to fix their equipment. And John Deere's made it that way. They have, it's the same way, like I have a 2020 Jeep Gladiator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I adjust anything on the engine, I have to take it to the dealership, period.
Right, yeah.
All right. So back in the day, John Deere equipment, it could be worked on at the farm and keep on running. That is not the way it is today. It has to be taken to the dealership. It has to be serviced by a John Deere dealership in order to fix the problem. And that's what these farmers, and that's what local people understand, is that it's a twin prong problem. The problem is that they're having to go to John Deere to fix anything, and on top of that, now they're having to go to John Deere, and John Deere's moving out of the country, which, as you know, most farmers and most agriculture people want anything made in America.
Right.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, but the only argument I'd have against that is that I think the tariffs probably wouldn't help the farmers in that case either. Like, Donald Trump's proposed thing is either going to actively not help the farmers, like not do anything, or actually hurt them, because if you're putting massive tariffs on John Deere, that means that the prices are going to go up for the farmers to even get any of the equipment, let alone get it repaired. And you could say that the Democrats maybe don't have a plan for that, or they haven't adequately addressed it since the 90s. But I would say that Donald Trump's plan either, at best case scenario, doesn't adequately address it, or actively harms the situation. Because even in 2016, I think there was some stat that I read. I might be misciting it, so low conviction, grain of salt.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that we spent like a fuck ton of money in Donald Trump's first term bailing out a bunch of farmers that got fucked by Donald Trump's first round of tariffs, because of like taxing certain things that were used for farming equipment. Um, so or like for farming, I don't know if it was fertilizers, if it was whatever, but we had to do like big government bailouts for certain farmers due to the tariffs the first time around. So if we're looking for an adequate answer for these farmers, it doesn't feel like a flat tariff on all John Deere products is going to do anything other than potentially raise the prices, and that or cause another thing where they need to have another big set of government bailouts.
But see, that's the thing. Well, how do farmers vote?
Sorry, say again.
How do farmers vote?
Republican.
No, they vote Democrat.
Do they? Wow.
Yes,
there you go.
they vote Democrat. Do you know why they vote Democrat?
No. Well, I didn't know they voted Democrat. So.
Yeah, they vote Democrat because of the bailouts. Because every seed you put in the ground is a gamble, and the government subsidizes every seed you put in the ground, and that's why you go to any Delta state or any Delta area, they are going to be tried and true blue, because they are voting Democrat because they want the bailout.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's why the Mississippi Delta, and this is the prime example. Sorry, I keep bringing up Mississippi.
Yeah, no
But
problem.
I'm speaking of what I know.
We're just having a conversation. You can bring up whatever you want to. You can bring up clown cars.
But you bring up the Mississippi Delta. It is tried and true blue, 100%, because the bailouts for farmers, and it's the only place in the besides the capital, which I could go into other reasons why that one is blue, but it is the only blue section of the state besides the capital, and it's because of the bailouts, because of the farmers.
But I would say, in regardless, when it comes to like weighing the approach of either candidate, I would say that best case scenario, the Democrats don't have a plan, and worst case scenario, they don't have a plan. They're just bailing out to keep the farming industry afloat. And worst case scenario for Republicans, they don't have a plan and they're just bailing out the farmers because they fucked up their approach. Or worst case scenario, they fuck up their whole thing and then they don't bail them out. So it feels like I would probably prefer the Democrat solution on that, even though it's imperfect, and we can push the Democrats from there. But it feels like that approach is better than just tariffing everything and then watching the prices climb and then bailing out whatever we can. Especially since Donald Trump, like a big sticking point of his campaign was like cutting the wasteful government spending. But it feels like that's all he's going to be doing in his first term when you actually like analyze his policy positions.
True. But as someone who is from an agricultural state, which will not be named, I truly feel like that that both sides are understood, Democrat and Republican, to be that this is a prime agricultural spot and needs to be addressed, whether it's with tariffs, whether it's with taxes, but it really boils down to that the equipment that these men and women are using, it is a big deal. And it's a big deal across the country, and I don't feel like negating that fact. How would I say it? I don't feel like that ignoring the fact that John Deere is moving their manufacturing across country lines. I don't feel like that is a fact that should be ignored or non-addressed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it should be ignored or non-addressed either. I'm just saying that I don't think Donald Trump's plan to address it is coherent. Like I said, I think I said this earlier, where it was like we could have conversations about like maybe tariffs or making certain pieces that John Deere needs to manufacture whatever they need to are more expensive. That could be a very real possibility, and lifting certain tariffs to get those materials could be something that we could look at lowering production costs for John Deere in America, which would incentivize them to keep certain industries here. Or we could look at, even if they do move off, let's say, we lower tariffs on wherever they move off, just to make sure that it doesn't like hike prices for John Deere people. Because like I'm sure there's like, obviously that's not a perfect answer, but it hurts the farmers a lot less than what Donald Trump is proposing.
If Donald Trump doesn't win, though, if he doesn't call their bluff, right?
Yes, but I would say that I don't know if we should be. I don't like that style of negotiation with companies. I don't like the big stick approach by just saying like, hey, if you leave, we're gonna fuck you, and we're gonna fuck the people that get your products too, because like. Yeah, because that it doesn't feel like much of a threat.
No, trust me, I agree with what you're saying, but the normal everyday American and the normal farmer,
yeah. But at that point, though, I'd say that like if you want to say that there's a messaging problem in the Democratic Party, then I would 1,000% agree. There's absolutely a messaging problem.
Yes, absolutely. That goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing about the Democratic Party is that they're the funny part is I'm a libertarian, and I was a police officer, or I am still a police officer, but I was a full-time police officer for a long time, and I am by far a libertarian. If you want to do whatever, that's up to you.
Absolutely.
But I just I don't know. I have a hard time believing that you can't put repercussions on a company leaving America and then say it's not going to have effect on the American people.
I mean, ultimately, them moving away from America is going to have an effect on the American people regardless. It's just a matter of who's better at addressing that, that problem. And I think the Republicans' strongest point, but I think also the most sinister point, is that they Republicans seem to claim a lot that they have the answer to everything, but oftentimes their answers are like completely dissatisfactory. Whereas Democrats just come out and say like, hey, we might not have the answers, but they don't either, which is bad marketing. And that's kind of what I'm doing too, but I'm not a part of the DNC, so it is what it is.
No, so I'm on the opposite side. I'm on the opposite side. I feel like DNC doesn't have the answers, and all of a sudden the RNC doesn't have the answers either.
Yeah, so it just feels like the RNC's messaging is more so like, yeah, we have all the answers, but their answers are wrong. Like it's almost like you're like, say you're in like class and you're trying to get answers from your homework, and you go to one person and you say, hey, do you have the answers? And they say no, and you're like, oh fuck. And then you go to the RNC and then you're like, hey, do you have the answers? And then they're like, yeah, and they scribble in D for every answer, and it's like, that's not much better.
Give me a prime. Sorry, if this is off topic.
Yeah.
Give me a prime example of what you're talking about.
So for instance, with like immigration and the problem with the influx of people coming to not even immigration. Let's use, I think inflation is the best example. So okay. when people were asking Joe Biden about like, hey, we're facing, or Kamala Harris, like, hey, we're facing like historic inflation right now. Like, what do you plan to do about like these rising prices? And the sad but accurate answer is like, inflation is transitory. Like, year by year, we're probably not going to be bringing down prices because we haven't been bringing down inflation for the past couple decades. So when we talk about like bringing prices down, there's not really a satisfying answer that we can give, because that's just not how inflation really works. We can talk about how like we should be raising wages so inflation doesn't hurt so bad, but ultimately the
Yeah.
Democrats can't give an answer on how to lower inflation, and they won't even purport to try, which I think is the accurate way, but it's not very strong messaging. Whereas Donald Trump, the whole thing was saying like, yeah, Joe Biden is killing Americans and they're not doing anything about inflation, and as soon as I get into office, I'm going to bring all your prices down and eggs are going to be back to $1, and then he wins the presidency and then he says like, well, I might not be able to bring prices back down. It's like, yeah, like Republicans claim to have the answers, but they don't have any answers. Whereas Democrats just outright admit that they don't have any answers, but that's just terrible messaging. So they're not. It's not going to win them any elections.
Like you don't just be. Remember, we're just having a honest conversation here.
Yep.
You don't think that prices will go down with Donald Trump? You
No.
don't think that?
No, I don't think so. I think the rate of inflation will probably slow down, but I think if we were to have Biden, the rate of inflation would also slow down because it's already been slowing down.
Why do you think it'll slow down for Donald Trump?
Just because, I mean, realistically, this is gonna sound like an unsatisfying answer, but
No, it's okay.
I think Joe Biden is leaving office with the economy in a really good spot, and like he did for Obama, he's probably just going to come in, do more or less nothing, and then take all of the credit for all of the good legislation that was passed in the 4 years before and reap all of the benefits of it.
You think Donald Trump will do that?
Yeah, because I think that's what he did with Obama in his first year, or in his first term.
Interesting. See, I feel the opposite way. I feel like the economy is stronger. I feel like inflation is less. And if Obama could have done that, why didn't he do that when he was in office?
Because okay, so there's a saying that's basically like, it doesn't take a lot to keep a good economy good, but it does take a lot to make a bad economy good.
Sure.
So like in Obama, he was like inheriting the 2008 recession. Like there was a lot of work that needed to be done, but by the time he left office, it was more or less okay, And
let me tell you this is that I do think Obama did a spectacular job in his first 2 to 3 years. I'm not an Obama fan. In fact, I dislike him very much, but I think he did a great job in inheriting what he did.
yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna say is that like Obama did a really good job at recuperating from 2008, but you can only do so good coming back from something like 2008. So by the time he left in 2015, the foundations, the building blocks were already there for where Donald Trump comes in. He basically, his job is just to not fuck anything up, and he successfully didn't fuck anything up because Obama got the ball rolling. But it was already going downhill. And I kind of see that with Joe Biden, where he inherited Donald Trump's economy, which was ravaged by COVID-19. Inflation was crazy, but we started to slow the rate. All of the jobs are back and more. Our economy's doing pretty good under Joe Biden right now. And then Donald Trump, I imagine, is probably just going to take office and then let the ball keep rolling like he did with Obama.
That was my second question, was that does COVID-19 have any bearing into your calculations? Because that's what the modern American, they understand that what America quit for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to bounce back from.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Joe Biden left the economy in a good place to bounce back from it. But I think that Donald Trump is probably going to reap all of the credit from the bounce back, because Joe Biden's not going to be in office whenever we start seeing all of the fruits of the bounce back. Just
Would
like
you have voted for him?
Joe Biden,
Yes.
this is going to sound really this is gonna probably freak you out a little bit, but I think I probably would have voted for like a very nice looking ham sandwich over Donald Trump, because I think Donald
Yeah,
Trump
it's okay. It's okay.
I think most of the reason why I'm against Donald Trump is January 6th, and then most of the other like problems that I have with Donald Trump and the Republican Party come kind of secondary.
No, it's okay. I mean, by far your headline says it all. But you still would have voted for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I even take it a step further. I probably support Donald Trump being removed from ballots on the grounds of January 6th. But
Okay. So Joe Biden being, can we agree that he is addled?
yes, absolutely. The special counsel that investigated him for the documents said that he was unfit to stand trial. Like he's definitely
Okay.
not my first pick.
Okay, I'm just making sure because sometimes some people are pro Biden and
I
they're
I
riding or dying.
Here's what I'd say about Joe Biden is that in 2020, when everybody was voting for him, I don't think a single Democrat or Republican would expect him to have done as good as he has. But he also ran in 2020 saying that he'd be a one-term president, and everyone voted for him, keeping in mind that he'd be a one-term president and knowing that he'd be kind of fucked up by the end of it because he's so old. And then, he was kind of fucked up by the end of it, and he got so fucked up that he thought he could run again, and everyone was like, ugh.
No, Joe.
Yeah.
No, Joe. Mm. Well,
But I mean, legislatively, I approve of a lot of the things that Joe Biden signed into law, and I like a lot of his foreign policy. Um,
can you give me a couple?
like like pieces of legislation or foreign policy.
Either one.
Um, the main one is I like his support for Ukraine. I think that was really important, and very like unconditional, which I think was really good. I like the Inflation Reduction Act, but not because I don't like the way that bill was named, but I do like investments in green energy. I think that's really important. The Infrastructure Act is something that had a lot of bipartisan support, which like
I agree with
yeah,
that.
I think the Infrastructure Act was really good, and and Donald Trump was even trying to get the infrastructure bill passed throughout his first term. So
It was.
I think those pieces of legislation are like huge. So I think those both were really good. The CHIPS Act, we'll have to see how unfolds, but I like it in theory. We just have to see like if we can actually successfully bring any chip manufacturing over here from Taiwan. I think the first factory just opened, so we'll see how it unfolds. Yeah, support for Ukraine, I really like. Kind of 50-50 on support for Israel.
Libertarian with supporting Ukraine.
Listen, I I think it is very important for libertarians to support democracy and to support keeping Russia from bullying little countries to make them, satellite states of dictatorships. I think part of being a libertarian is making sure that libertarian countries and libertarian ideals can exist in the world without being overtaken.
Okay, I respect that, and not only that, it's a strategic position for Russia. That's why this whole battle.
That comes secondary for me, but that is helpful. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the whole logistics of it, that is why it has.
Well, also, like a big part of it too is just that, like, have you ever heard of the Budapest Memorandum?
I have.
Yeah, so like our commitment to support Ukraine if they give up their nuclear weapons, it would be kind of shitty of us to just like leave them to die. Yeah.
Abandon is the phrase you were looking for.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it like this: that in 2025, we can't be the world police, but we can interject ourselves into the situations we need to. I'm a firm believer. I have a lot of friends that have been in the military. I myself have not. I have been in military like units, And my thing is that, you know, we're not the world police anymore, and every single military personnel will tell you we are not the world police anymore, and we need to get ourselves out of that mindset. Period, because it's not we're we are we're just not we're not the world police anymore, and
I
they need to pay for their own stuff.
I partially agree, but it would matter. Like I think the term world police gets used a little bit more than it actually should. So if people say like we're not the world police anymore and that like we're not just like occupied in every single Middle Eastern country to try and like institute like democracies, then like yeah, probably not. But a lot of people say that like we shouldn't be the world police in regard to like supporting places like Ukraine, and I don't support like I don't agree that we don't have any position there.
No, we have a position of support.
Hmm. Well, more
I
so that
agree.
we shouldn't have any position there.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and a lot of military guys will tell you that uh, we have a position of support, but we don't have a position of sending troops or
Yeah. Hmm.
and that's the big difference is we don't want Americans dying in a war that has nothing to do with America.
Right.
Same way with the Gaza Strip
Hmm.
is that, and the funny part is that I dislike Joe Biden very much, but uh, I think his handling of it, besides the hostages, have been superb.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
mean, all things considered, like Joe Biden is a very like stabilizing force. It feels like a lot of people like it feels like he does stand for like some sort of world justice, and if he sees a just cause, he's probably going to support it. And I would trust people less than Joe Biden to handle conflicts on the world stage like that.
yeah, well, and my point being is that that's not our fight. The Gaza Strip and uh, Israel's that's not our fight.
Hmm.
We can provide support, but that's not. We don't need to send our guys in there. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
so I don't know. It's hard to explain, especially if you've never been in combat. But
Yeah.
it's it. You don't want to go. You don't want to go to war for something that doesn't mean anything to the United States.
No, if I'm getting drafted, I think I'm gonna conveniently fall down the stairs the day before I deploy.
Uh oh, clipped.
I said convenient. I listen. I didn't say that I'm gonna draft dodge. I said that I just like the top stair might be a little slippery that day. That's it.
Well, if that's the case, then I've had several boating accidents with the guns in my safe chest. I went to go shoot fish and they weren't there, and the boat sank.
Yeah.
So, well, I gotta go take care of my baby boy.
Yeah.
But man, it's been nice talking to you.
It's been nice talking to you too. It's
Let
very
me.
refreshing to have someone with an even head up here.
I hit the follow for however long we have TikTok left.
I appreciate it. If I go live in the next 2 days, hopefully we can talk again.
Yeah, yeah, man. Uh, that's what I'm in North Mississippi, which I think everybody probably already
Yeah.
figured that out. So
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up. I appreciate the talk. I'm probably ending the live here too because I'm tired.